can tell I'm reading. Welcome to Detroit Table Talk. I am excited to have a special guest with me on with us today. You can't see her yet, but you will in a second. Today I have Tina Michelle Jabaz. Ain't that a beautiful name? Tina Michelle Jabaz.
Jabez.
Jabaz. Jabaz.
Jabez.
She's a talented esthetician.
I am.
She is an entrepreneur. She's a community activist and an upcoming author whose work and dedication inspires so many. It also inspired me. Today, we'll be diving into her journey, her business, her ministry, and her incredible work in the community feeding the homeless. Y'all know I got a special place in my heart for people who feed the homeless. And without further ado, let me put my glasses on while we welcome Lady T to the invisible table on today. Okay. Welcome to Detroit Table
Thank
Talk,
you so
Miss
much
Tina.
for having me. Thank you so
How
much.
are you? How
I'm
are
well.
you?
I am well. Thank you.
Listen, guys, I got to tell you how I met her before we get into, questioning her and having a conversation with her. Okay. I saw her for about a year or so
Yeah.
on Facebook. I always saw your pictures with you out feeding the homeless.
Wow. Likewise.
Feeding the homeless. And I had told a couple of friends, I said, oh, I got to link up with her. I said, because she's doing what I'm doing.
Amen.
So I was so excited. And we had a Feed the Homeless in July, this past July. And I was talking to my buddy, Dice Clark. And I said, I want to go downtown and feed the homeless and stuff. That he said, I got a young lady I know that I hooked up with. She does the same thing. He said, I'm going to, connect y'all too. You came out and you participated in feeding the homeless this July.
I did.
And I just felt like it was God connect because I had seen it happening before it even happened.
I like that.
And then when I met her, I just felt like it was what it was supposed to be.
Absolutely.
Because we came right in, we got the work and we jailed just fine.
Absolutely.
No issues, no worries, no concerns.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's how I met Miss Tina Jabaz. Did I say it right or Jabaz?
Jabez.
Okay. Jabaz.
Like Jabez prayer.
Jabaz prayer. And we all know the prayer of Jabaz.
Absolutely.
Okay. Is that?
Yes.
No, that's not.
Yes.
It is?
Yes.
Wait a minute, that's how you got your name?
Yes.
Oh, tell us about that. I'm excited. But wait, baby, let me say this. Thank you so much for joining us at the table to start. Matter of fact, can you just start us off with the Jabaz?
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, so that is my legal name, Tina Michelle Jabaz.
Did you change your name?
I absolutely did. I absolutely did. And so if you know the story of Jabez, I felt that, that story in totality absolutely spoke to me in my life. The things that I had experienced in life from 0 to 51 at least, and once I started that journey of, I would say the Spirit of the Lord changing me, and changing my name into the destiny that He has for me. That was what resonated. And that is my legal last name.
So just in case people don't understand what the name Jabaz means, give them a small synopsis of what that means so they know how to connect it to your name.
So the story of Jabez, many know the prayer of Jabez, 1 Chronicles 4, 9, and 10. Jabez was the least honorable of his siblingship. And his mother called him Jabez because she bore him in pain. And, again, that was the part, all of those parts really, jumped out there at me, immediately. And then the latter part of that, is the scripture says that Jabez called on the God of Israel saying, oh, if you bless me indeed and enlarge my territory. And at the end of that, it didn't say how many days it took. It just said, and God granted him his request. And so, that's what resonated.
I get so excited about that. I have a book on the prayer of Jabaz. Okay, y'all know. I keep telling y'all I'm gonna take some speech classes. So, as I get older, I can't pronounce words like I used to. But I have a book on the prayer of Jabez. And let me tell you, that's something that I say over my life all the time.
Mhm.
Lord, enlarge my territory.
Mhm.
So that's something that God literally done in your life.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, that's what I was, I'm watching, I when talking about, talking about, talking about, the street ministry,
Yes.
feeding the homeless. Um, I started out many years ago, myself and my daughters, going in the streets and feeding. We thought we'd done a great thing by feeding 10, 20 people on the holidays. And last year, God impressed upon me. It had to have been the Spirit of the Lord that impressed upon me to do what I'm doing now. Um, Once I got involved in that, it got bigger. It went from 10, 20 people to 200, 300 people. And, when I first went out, well, this year I first went out for my 52nd birthday. I did a warmth drive where I was only trying to feed 52 people because I was turning 52, and give them hats, scarves, gloves, and toiletries. And once we got there, the line just began to grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. And we went back the following weekend, and
Okay.
we did 52 times 3.
Wow.
And it just took off from there. So that was the first part of the expansion that I saw. You have to be very careful what you ask God to do for you.
But not only that was the first expansion, you got to go back.
Mhm.
Because while you were helping other people,
Mhm.
you were in need of help.
Absolutely. I was
And
homeless.
that's where God enlarged your territory.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Listen, I'm so excited. When you said that, I said, I know you lied.
Yes, ma'am. I was homeless, helping the homeless. The thing about it is, and we talked about this privately, the thing about it is, they want you to look a certain way.
Yeah.
The society wants you to look a certain way while you're, in a circumstance, in a situation. And for me, even though, I was in that circumstance, I still felt like that I was doing better than they were doing, and at that moment, that was when the Spirit of the Lord spoke to me regarding feeding them. If you love me, feed my sheep. And so, I thought, okay, I'm passing by these people who are homeless, and I'm in my car. I have hat, scarf, gloves. I have the little hot warmers in my mitts, and I had them in my shoes as well. But I was still cold in my vehicle. And so I'm thinking, as I'm passing by these homeless people, like they don't even have the basic necessities. And so that's what prompted me to, okay, I got to do something. And so we started the warmth drive through myself and my clients, and some out of state. I can't even say how many people just put their hands to the plow and made it happen.
But you know what? You said something that was very key. The Lord told us to feed the homeless.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing that we jump over all the commandments that God has told us that we are to do. We are to take care of the youth, feed the homeless and take care of
widows
widows
and orphans. Yes.
And we go on with life, and we'll walk past a homeless individual and won't think twice about that individual.
And so, well, for me, that's why it became important for me to do it on my birthday. Usually our birthdays, we take that time to ourselves, and we plan a party. We get the DJ, we get the venue, we get 1 or 2 outfits, we get our makeup done, our hair done, all of the planning that goes into, doing an event in general. And I thought to myself, well, how many times, Tina, have you done a birthday party? I've done birthdays for as long as I can remember. And sometimes getting gifts and sometimes not getting anything at all, except for, watching the people's party and drink my fine wine and drink,
and then go home. And some of them don't even bring you a card.
Yeah, they don't.
Say happy birthday.
That's right. And so I felt like, okay, this is similar, and going out and feeding the homeless, it was the same thing. I had to plan it. I had to, choose the venue. I had to get the food together. Same identical thing, except for I was giving back to people who were in need. And so my 52nd birthday, it just really, it moved me.
you know, and that's kind of like another connection. And I never said this to anybody
Mhm.
on my 52nd birthday. And I'm
Wow.
trying not to cry. I'm just like
You see me
tearing
right.
up already.
You see me right.
My 52nd birthday, which was last year,
Mhm.
I got food together and I went out and passed out food on my birthday.
Mhm.
And then July of this year, Dice's birthday was in April.
Mhm.
And for the homeless, feed the homeless that we did in July, Dice requested that, you know, we're not going to the bar.
Yeah,
If
no,
you want to be a
no.
blessing to me,
That's right.
come help us
Let's
feed the
put it in the streets.
homeless.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Let's put it back in
So,
our community. Absolutely.
you know what I'm
And
saying?
he's an amazing brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like, wow, I'm
Yeah.
sitting here listening to you. And I know Dice's testimony, you know, about, okay, don't do anything for me. Come feed
I
the
didn't even know
homeless.
that, but yeah.
Now we can go later on and have a drink. But right
Right.
now,
This is
what
the
I'm
task at
asking.
hand.
This is the task at hand.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know,
And that's how I felt. You know, people were like, "Hey, Lady T, we know you're gonna do something." And I said, "Well, like, and again, we'll talk about this later. You know, setting those boundaries. I already said what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know, I'm
and
this.
people will try to talk you out
Yes.
of the
Yes.
of the direction that God has told you,
Absolutely.
just for their selfish
Absolutely.
reasons.
And I just, you know, I was steadfast and unmovable. And you know, putting that together, and you know, I you know, thanked everybody before, everybody who put their hands to the plow to make that happen. It was far bigger than I ever expected it to be.
Yeah, my
It
buddy
was
Dice did
amazing.
the same thing. But see, the only thing with me, I did different. I didn't tell anybody because I didn't want anybody to talk me out of what I felt like God wanted me to do for that day. So I just made food.
Mhm.
I packed it up. I went to GFS, got the containers, I got spoons and stuff, and packed it up, got cake in it, and I put it all in my car and went out and just passed it out.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
It's amazing how people will try to talk you out of being a blessing to other people.
Absolutely.
They would give you every reason. Oh, they have the same 24 hours that we have, and this and that or whatever.
It's irrelevant. You know, I felt like, you know, I've learned across time it's irrelevant, you know, and I've said before, and it bears repeating, you know, we're all one paycheck away from a situation or circumstance,
Absolutely.
or one illness away from a circumstance or a situation. And so, you know, you have to be mindful of the things that you say and how you go about doing things, because you never know, it might be you.
Yeah.
You know, and then you'll really get to see, you know, the other side of that thing. And you'll be praying for, you know, a warmth angel, a food angel. That's what I call us. You know, you're going to be praying for that same help that the homeless is praying for. They're praying that, you know, God, please send, you know, if it's nothing but a bag of potato chips,
Yeah.
you know, send help now. And so, you know, those people there, you know, we can't worry about, you know, I'll say it this way. What was impressed upon me, you know, I was concerned about some things that were being spoken. And the answer that I got back in prayer was this, you know, you're not in trouble with me. I'm talking about God.
Mhm.
You're not in trouble with me for how they respond.
Yes.
You're in trouble with me for how you respond.
Oh, that's so good. That's good.
You know, and so on that note, you know, I couldn't be concerned. You know, I started saying, this is for the willing. You know, this is for the willing. So if we take with us the willing on our missions, we know that they're there because they want to be there, not because you had to twist their arm and give them a sad story. You know, they know the need of our community, and they want to meet the deficit in our community, you know. And so,
and there's so many of us out there that is really trying to, even on the budget that we have, you know, the low budgets that we have, after we take care of ourselves, our families, to even have the heart to still want to give back.
Yes.
That's much to be said.
Absolutely.
Because in the day and in the time that we are in, so many people are selfish.
Absolutely.
It's my four and no more.
Absolutely.
You know, and it's heartbreaking to see when people have an overflow and they don't understand that you are blessed to be a blessing.
Absolutely.
You know, currency is never meant to be held up and stored up.
Right.
Currency is supposed to continue to flow.
That's right.
And once you know, like I had to tell my sons one time, I said, open up your hand. I said, me giving you this money, I said, are you closing your fist as I'm trying to get. I said, no, you're opening your hand.
Mhm.
I said, when you start closing your hand, God can't put anything
That's
in
right.
it.
I like that.
So when you
too.
start being selfish and holding on to, the blessings that God has given you to be a blessing to other people, it stops the blessing from flowing.
Absolutely. Well, I always say, it's not a sacrifice if you can afford it.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
it's not a sacrifice if you can afford it. And then, after, I got the street ministry started, um, I the last ministry that I did, the last street ministry that I did, I got my vehicle all the way home, like
Mm.
to the entrance, and it stopped right there. It never started again. So I went inside, and I said, okay, what am I going to do now? you know, and I could hear again, I have a relationship with God, and so I could hear the Spirit of the Lord saying, are you serious
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
doing this? And I says, I'm so serious about this.
Yeah.
And then right after that was when I connected with Dice Clark.
Okay.
Okay.
And
so this is why I had all of that abundance of
from leftover from the
absolutely.
Okay.
I had an abundance of stuff to just give freely to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm working out of my need.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to still go? If there's a will, there's a way. And so I called a few friends like, hey, I need a ride down here to, this mission we're getting ready to do for the homeless. And a lot of people know that I'm really adamant about this. And, I had some friends that came through like, okay, I'll take you, and I'll bring you back. And so it worked out.
But you know what? I want people to really understand that when you are in need, that's the best time to sow a seed.
Absolutely.
That's the best time to sow a seed. Don't ever get to the point where you want God to do something tremendous in your life.
Absolutely.
And you're not, sowing into that.
Absolutely.
A lot of people only look at sowing as when you go to church.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not where it ends.
That's right.
You can be across the street from a senior citizen, and that senior citizen is living on a budget, or that senior can't get out and shovel the snow, do the grass. It's not always about money.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it's about just sowing your time.
That's right.
To
because our time is our greatest commodity.
It is.
And I say that all the time. We can give. I can give you my very last dime. But if I take the time to do that, plus my time is something I can never get back.
That's right.
My currency, I can.
That's right.
And so time is our biggest commodity. And so when you find an opportunity to give it expressly to the senior community, expressly to the homeless community, God smiles on you.
And our children.
Absolutely. And the children for certain.
I mean, because if you don't know, there was a part in the Bible where the children was sitting with Jesus. And it was like people didn't really want God to spend no time with the kids. And I sat there and I'm like, man, if you think about what's going on today, a lot of us, not me, but for the most part, not me. But a lot of us have taken on that phrase, why in?
Yes.
We'll talk about the young people, but we won't give our time, to help change the trajectory of their life.
Absolutely. That's so true as
well. If you see them in need, why not reach out? Oh, but they ain't going to listen to nobody. How do you know?
Absolutely. Well, in my business, in my aesthetics business, I give back in that perspective to the young people as well. I come in contact with so many people, so many walks of life. And oftentimes you can look and see someone's deficit, without asking, without prying.
You don't even have to ask.
That's right. You can be a blessing. And so during the school year, especially around prom, and I'm a little slow here with this because my kids are adults and married, but a homecoming with prom and homecoming, back to school. I absolutely so into the young people because times have changed from when we were youth to now. The youth are a little bit more savage, as the young people call it.
Oh, yeah.
And so they judge from your head to your toe. When we were coming up, it was the same way, but now it's a bit worse. And so I absolutely sow back into the young people. When they have good grades, I sew into them. When they come in for services like brows or lashes, I ask questions and just a
You open
general
up that line of
conversation.
communication.
Absolutely, just general conversation and knowing what's going on in your life, young lady. Or some of the young men come in for similar services, brows, and I have an opportunity to just inquire. And at the end of their appointment, they get ready to pay me, and I tell them pay it forward.
Yeah.
And so I give back there as well.
So do you think that when you were experiencing some transition in your life, that's what made you want to help the homeless, or
No.
was it something that was already inside of you?
So again, when my children were coming up, we would always go out,
Okay.
For the holidays, and we would get again 10, 20 meals out, and I thought I was doing a great thing. I didn't know the homeless
But you
community.
were.
Well, I just didn't know that the homeless community
need.
was so big,
Yeah.
and so it was twofold for me. After going through that transition in my life, I really got to see how they were treated, and again, they want you to look a certain way, and I just refuse to look like what I'm going through. I don't have to, and after experiencing ill treatment, from people who are set aside to help, that just gave me that punch the more to be out there in it with them, and just being a blessing. I would drive around with food in my car, especially in the winter time. I drive around with food and gloves in my vehicle. I call it a jump out blessing. I just jump out and bless you. And so in the winter, you can make sandwiches and keep it in the car for at least a maximum of 3 days. Without it, you don't want
some cheese.
Yes. And so I would carry that around with me, and call it jump out blessing if I see who's in need.
Yeah. And I did the same thing too. I always, in my car, I think within the last several months, because my car was looking a mess, I took some stuff out, but I always kept hats, gloves, and I was really low on scarves, but hats and gloves and socks I always kept in my vehicle.
Yeah.
I always kept a couple of bags that had liquid soap, a rag, some granola bars, just a few things where I can ride up and say, hey,
just be a blessing, jump out blessing.
All
right.
Roll down the window.
Jump out. The jump out blessing.
Some days I just, I can be sitting at home and I'd be bored. And I'd be like, dang, okay, I'm just gonna watch another Christmas movie. And God will say, get up and go feed the homeless.
That's right.
And I'd be like, I ain't cooked nothing.
Right.
I don't got nothing up in here to cook. And he said, go feed the homeless. And I'll go to KFC and I buy a couple of those big boxes. I'll go to Popeyes and I'll ride around and say, hey, do you need something to eat? They come over to the car and they'd be like, thank you, because they don't expect you bless me with some KFC.
That's right. That's right.
And I'd be like, do you want pop or do you want soda? I get to choose. You absolutely do.
Absolutely.
You absolutely do.
Well, that became important to me too, to not just give, but to give them the best. I want them to have what I experience, you know, and so, some people are like, well, we'll bring you some used this and that. I don't want that. And I'm not, trying to be funny about that, but I want to give them the best. They're already at a deficit. And then also another thing, I would get in trouble with in doing missions were hugging. I like to hug, and they're like, oh, you're hugging the homeless. They stink. And I said, well, listen, here's the deal. First of all, you don't know what that hug does for their posture, their spiritual posture, and then their natural posture. And then the next thing is, I'm going home. I can take a bath. They're in it. And I don't know how long they're going to be in it. And so to extend a hug, just to strengthen their posture and let them know that someone really does care. And that, the most important thing is that God cares.
Absolutely.
He cares about you.
Absolutely.
And,
and we are vassals.
Yes, absolutely.
We're vassals.
Absolutely.
So when we're out there, we're not just speaking on behalf of us. We're speaking on behalf of the
Kingdom.
Father.
That's right.
We are to speak life into these people.
Absolutely.
You know, we don't know the last time someone encouraged them, someone
Absolutely.
hugged them, someone
Absolutely.
gave them a warm meal,
Yes.
someone just stopped just to listen.
Yes.
Because all of them have stories.
Absolutely.
All of them have. I've never been homeless where I'm laying on the ground outside,
Mm.
but I was homeless one time because my mother put me out, and I ain't had nowhere to go. You know, and she forewarned me. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
She told me, you know, she came home, my boyfriend was over there,
Uh-oh.
and it was hot. My mama didn't have AC. He had took off his shirt. My mama said, she came in, she didn't say nothing, and she spoke to me, and she spoke to him, and she said, young man, do you live here? He was like, no.
We know what that means.
She said, well, put your shirt on. I don't want to see your body. So he put his shirt on. We went on about our visit. When he left, she said, don't let me come up in my house again and see that young man without his shirt on. So I was like, okay.
Old school.
Child, it happened again. And she told me I can find somewhere else to live.
Oh.
With my kid.
Oh, wow.
And he was only a few months. I said, I know Miss O'Neill not putting me
Miss
out.
O'Neill meant that.
She joked that. My daddy was like, now O'Neill, you can't put the girl out. My mama said, I sure can. She said, I told her not to. And I was homeless. I didn't know where I was going to go.
So she set some boundaries.
So the young man said, come on, you know, come to my house. And I stayed up in his house, but I didn't really know that young man like that.
Wow.
I had only been seeing him for a couple of weeks.
Wow, wow, wow.
But he was a blessing to me.
Okay, good.
And I didn't know, but you know, I ended up running into one of my girlfriends at the grocery store, someone that I went to high school with. And she had a house. And she was never there. She was a exotic dancer.
Okay.
So she was like, you and that baby come live in my house. I said, well, I don't want to be around that kind of stuff or whatever. I want my baby to ride. She said, no. She said, I'm never home. She said, so you'll have the house pretty much to yourself. So I went over there and she was never home. And she allowed me and my child to stay there for like 6 months. And I was able to move out. So although I wasn't homeless like that, I didn't have nothing that was mine. And that gave me a little bit of, you know, being able to see that, oh, it's hard out here. You got to follow rules.
Yeah.
Because my mama, Miss O'Neill, meant that. And at the time, she was a director of a homeless shelter.
Oh, wow.
But she wasn't playing. But after that, you know, I started helping my mom, you know, with the homeless community in the Cass Corridor. We were a part of Cass United Methodist Church at that time.
Okay.
And, you know, not shortly, my mom passed some years ago. So that was the reason why I wanted to give back. You know, my mother absolutely loved the homeless community. If you went down in a homeless community, you asked them about Miss O'Neill, my mother would talk to them kids like them grown people like they were her kids.
When they come appreciate that.
And they appreciate that. They was coming there as
that's
mom.
Love to
is
them.
Mom here?
Yeah, that's love.
You
to
know,
them.
is Aunt here? And I used to be like, hey, John T. And my mother be like,
don't say that. That's right.
She had to teach us how to be respectful of the homeless community. You know, she had to teach my children. I started them off when they were very young, coming to the homeless shelter and working.
Well, that's another thing that's really important, especially, you know, when we're doing mission is preserving their dignity. You know, that's very important to me. You know, if you're going to take pictures, and usually I do, like my uncle, he was a part of my street staff. A brother who's a part of the security portion of the street staff. And he was also a photographer as well. And, you know, I say, well, listen, I have no qualms with you taking pictures, you know, for our portfolios or whatnot to show, because some people want proof what you're doing.
That you're giving,
Yes. And I said, but, you know, either first ask their permission or take it from a distance where, you know, you don't capture, you don't capture their downfall, you know.
And that's always been my my direction to people who volunteer with me. Don't just start snapping pictures.
Don't do that.
You know, we want to first of all ask. And sometimes we just have to discern, you know, where people are. You know, maybe they don't really know if they want to be out like that. So
and then a lot of them,
the back of them. Capture the back.
Yes, ma'am. Then a lot of them, you know, people don't even know that they're in that space in their life. You know, like for me, you know, some people knew I was in that space, you know, and some people are glad that you fail. Yeah.
But you know what? If you can remember when we fed the homeless in July, it was a lot of young people, young men. that were in their early 20s
Mhm.
and stuff. So time has changed.
It has.
People don't want people to know that they are down and they look like
Right,
that.
right.
So we definitely want to be respectful.
Absolutely.
Now let me ask you a question.
Sure.
When you were homeless, did you find that people that you knew in your family helped you more, or people that you didn't know helped you more?
Again, some people are glad for your downfall.
Mhm.
Some people are praying for your downfall, and so, and then, some family members, wanted to know what was going on, not for the sake of helping, but for the sake of getting your business, and, my circumstance was a lot different because I was helping a family member.
Mhm.
And once he got well, there was no more need for me. And so that's how I ended up in the circumstance that I was in. A lot of people, know that portion of the story,
Yeah.
but I had to do it by myself. It was me and God. It
Mhm.
really was. It was me and God. Because again, people will judge you. They want you to look the part, and I just did not look the part. They were still looking at handbags that I got at Marshall's.
Mhm.
Like, this is a handbag from Marshall's. It may have cost me $15,
Mhm.
but they were judging me by that handbag. They were judging me by my attire.
But you
Judging.
see that now.
Yes,
People want people that look a certain way or
absolutely.
put off a persona.
Yes.
They don't really want people that are really in the trenches.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
No.
And you see it all the time.
Yeah.
I know that at some point you decided to open up a business.
I did. I took
Now,
that
where
jump.
did that come from? Because every time, well, the last couple of times I've seen you, your eyebrows be on fleek.
Thank
Her
you.
makeup be tight, y'all. And I absolutely love the way she dyes her hair and
Thank you
stuff
so
like
much.
that. But you're always put together.
Thank you so much.
Now, did
Well,
you grow up like just, doing the cosmetic?
I did not. We grew up very poor. We grew up very poor,
Whoa.
and we were eating out of garbage cans. There's a story to tell. There's a story to tell.
She got to come back and tell that story,
Yeah,
guys.
there's a story to tell, and I just say, by the grace of God, I'm still here by his grace. And so the business, I always aspired to own a boutique.
Okay.
Coming up, I knew I didn't want to do hair. I knew that for certain. It was too much of a responsibility.
Okay.
Because if they were like me about my curls, I didn't want one curl out of place, so I didn't want to be.
So you're a perfectionist?
Yes, I didn't want to be responsible for that, And so in Mississippi, it was kind of new to our community about aesthetics. We knew about cause. We knew about nail techs and barbers, but we didn't know anything about aesthetics or estheticians. And so I, started the program in Mississippi, and then I finished the program in Virginia.
So you were born in Mississippi?
Well, I tell people I was born here by accident.
Okay, but you really fit in Mississippi?
I grew up in Mississippi, but my mother gave birth to me at Hutzel Hospital here visiting her sisters.
Okay.
Yes. And so that's why I say I was born here by accident. So
I was born.
But yeah. And so I grew up in the South. I'm a Southern girl for sure. I'm from Wiggins, Mississippi. Shout out to Wiggins, Mississippi.
I don't even know where that's at.
See, I'm a country girl for real,
I love it.
And again, I ended up getting my licensure in Virginia.
Okay.
And it just took off from there. But prior to that, I was here in Michigan. I was living here. At some point, we came here as a teenager, 16, 17, 18 years old. And around maybe my mid-20s, I became a lash technician.
Okay.
Back then, you could just say that you had a license. You really didn't need it,
Yeah.
The foreigners weren't looking at that. They were just looking at, could you do the work?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they charge you 50%.
I'm gonna get some lashes one day, guys.
Well, come on.
If somebody get some lashes I can't see, I'll be like having to hold my eye.
Well, that's what I started out as. I started out as a lash technician.
Strips or the singles?
I started out doing individuals,
I just
And
learned that there was individuals. I didn't have no clue.
yes, so there's individuals and there's strips, and then there
I didn't have a clue.
are extensions. And so,
Okay.
you know, but I started out, you know, as a lash technician. Back then, Black girls couldn't do the waxing services. You know, we were only allowed to do the lashes part
Okay.
in the nail salons. And so I ended up just making this my career. I went to school, got my licensure, and in 3 states. I'm licensed in 3 states, and you know, there you have it. But
Now I love the way you say licensure, because down here we just say, "Do you got your license?"
yeah,
You know, she's pronouncing it the right way. We say estheticians. What did you call it?
and aesthetics.
Aesthetics.
Aesthetics is the name of the core group,
I didn't know that.
and then an esthetician is what you become.
Okay. Okay, don't play with her. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so aesthetics is your skincare, lashes, brows.
So what do? You okay, you say you do
I
the
do-
eyelashes,
I do all.
brows.
I'm full spectrum aesthetics.
so skincare as well.
Skincare as well. I specialize in ethnic skincare.
Do you?
I do.
Okay,
Yes.
because we got a couple of us, you know, we need some assistance.
Absolutely. I specialize in ethnic skincare.
Wow. Wow. So you were telling me a story. I hope I'm okay saying this story.
I'm listening.
I probably should have asked before. Y'all tell me stuff. I don't say nothing, and I don't think it's bad or anything
right.
like that. So I wouldn't disclose anything like that. But you said something to me that I thought was just like so cool. You said that when your car broke down, right after you fed the homeless,
Immediately
it broke
That was
down.
my last.
But you made it to the house
I
before
made
it stopped.
It got me right to the driveway,
Mhm.
and it never started again.
Did you ever look and see what was wrong with it?
Yeah, it needed the engine.
Engine, okay.
It locked up, and it never started again. And so I was saving money. You were asking how I began the business. So I was saving money to get another SUV. And my youngest daughter, she called, and you know, she's really private, so I hope that she doesn't get upset if she sees this. But you know, she was expressing to me something that she was going through and on her job, and she's also a licensed esthetician as well.
Okay.
But she's multi-talented, and
Okay.
so I says, young lady, I said, you have too many skills, you know, to be pushed around. But the more she talked, I heard me in her story, you know, and I said, baby, all I keep hearing in my spirit to tell you is to jump. That was one word that kept flowing in.
You telling her to jump, meanwhile God telling you to jump.
And so maybe about 3 days later, she called again, and she was telling me, you know, the move she was going to make. And I kept hearing it. And this time it was for me. And the message is first for the messenger.
Okay.
And so I said, you know, I said, baby, I said, that message is for me too. You know, and so I called, and this place I had been passing forever. In 2 years, I've been passing the same building for 2 years. And I called, and he told me, you know, the amount that it would take to, you know, get it. And I went back and I counted my little money for the new SUV. Counted my little money, it was exactly the amount to move. And I took a deep breath, and I said, it's now or never.
Now or never.
I said, it's now or never. And I heard instinctively again one word, jump. And so I jumped.
And
so,
there you have, your business was
yes,
completely born.
Yes. And so I officially opened September 2nd of this year. Tina Jabez Aesthetics Lounge is located in Warren, Michigan. And yeah.
What's the address?
Oh, my apologies.
You can tell them your address.
Okay, it's 28800 Van Dyke, Suite 200, Warren, Michigan 48093. In case you need the zip code to find me. So, and my phone number as well. My phone number is 989-332-9602. No weirdos calling me. Don't do it.
Yeah, because she ain't got time for y'all
I don't have time for the
foolishness.
foolishness.
Yes, she's beautiful, but she don't want y'all. No,
and then
if
also,
God didn't send you, don't come.
Please don't. And then also, you know, you can go online at www.TinaJaysAesthetics lounge.com.
Mhm.
And you can do all of your online booking as well. It's relatively
And she's
simple.
going to go back and put it in the comment section,
Okay.
the link. That way it's just easier because we know we got you. We got you. So what do you have coming up
In regards to the business?
in regards to whatever you got on the table? Because I'm excited about some stuff that you got coming up.
Well, I got quite a few, listen, so let me say, when God pushes you forward, when it's time for destiny, because sometimes we get off,
Mhm.
we get derailed with our own things. When God shows you the path to your destiny and say, okay, this is it, you have to go, and sometimes you go alone, sometimes you go, with the empty wagon, and
Mhm.
God's going to fill it along the way,
Yes.
and so I have, again, the book that's upcoming. It's called The Power of No. And,
Y'all heard it here first on the Trade Table Talk.
Yeah.
She's going to be launching
Yes.
her first book,
Yes.
The Power of No.
The Power of No.
What is that about? Because I got excited when I heard the title.
Well, so, it's a journey to peace and, boundaries and self-respect. And
Mhm.
so, people always want a yes man or a yes girl.
Mhm.
And, oftentimes, as activists, we'll jump right in there and we'll say yes,
Mhm.
without, counting the cost.
Yes.
And so
yes.
it's that way in life as well.
Mhm.
We will give our yes, without counting the cost,
Mhm.
how it's going to hurt me,
Mhm.
and so
I need that book so bad, y'all. Y'all don't even know.
I feel like it's going to really help a lot of people. Even in going back reading the things that I had written, tears flowed, because it was a breaking that was happening, and delivering this information to the public,
Mhm.
my personal life to the public. And I was going through a breakup. It's what really pushed it, because I had been like writing little things here and there.
Mhm.
But what pushed it was that the catalyst was saying, you know what? No, I'm not going to do anything else.
Mhm.
I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to yield any of my time, talent, or my treasure any greater than I have. And that next morning, I woke up from that instance. I woke up and one more time, I spend a lot of time with God in the morning. People know, do not call me between this time of morning,
Mhm.
because I'm meditating.
Yeah.
Even homeless, I was still meditating,
Yeah.
And when I turned over that morning, the Spirit of the Lord said, there's power in your no. And I said, huh? I was still like kind of asleep. I rolled over.
Oh, that's a blessing.
I said, huh? And I heard it again. There's power in your no,
And I want people to really understand what she's saying. There's power in no. And I had to learn this, and I'm still learning it.
Mhm.
I've learned it with people.
Mhm.
Now I have to learn it with my children. Because
absolutely.
we don't understand that no is a complete sentence.
Absolutely.
You don't owe anybody the explanation of why
Absolutely
you're
not.
saying no.
Right.
No is a complete sentence.
Absolutely.
And no means no.
Absolutely. And then also, again, we're so used to we're so used to no being a negative thing.
Yeah.
Once I heard that in my spirit, and I understood that, okay, this no is a positive. This no is going to not just set you on track to your destiny, but it's going to, help other people solidify boundaries and solidify the peace within themselves and the self-respect that we owe to ourselves.
And it'll stabilize your mental capacity.
Absolutely.
I mean, we don't understand a lot of mental health issues we have because we don't know how to say no.
Absolutely.
We push ourselves, we overextend ourselves.
Absolutely. All
and
of that.
People will keep pushing and taking.
Absolutely.
And then you somewhere in a hospital, you somewhere laid up,
or you're gone.
Or you're gone.
And they find, listen,
and they find somebody else.
I tell my
can
friends that all the time. Listen, you have to say no. Now, it's powerful to me now. I practice in the mirror. No. 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 you know, and I tell my friends, you
It's
know, like, I
hilarious.
tell my friends, like, listen, you know, if you feel today,
Mhm.
if you were no longer here today, tonight, they're going to find someone else to draw from, to
Okay.
pull from, to get money from, or whatever their need is, to get a ride from, whatever their need is. They're going to find someone else on the jobs, If you failed today, they're going to bridge that gap. They're going to call somebody in to
Yep.
cover your shift. And
Yep.
they may, at the anniversary of your passing, say, you know, something kind about you, but on the
But not
norm,
likely if you ain't been there for 20 plus years.
and they might not then neither,
Okay.
you know. And so, you know, again, you know, the power of no is establishing boundaries for
Yeah.
you and others, and you know, getting on track with yourself, because we're so far, a lot of us don't even know what we want.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a whole nother topic. That's a whole nother
Yeah.
broadcast. But you know, a lot of us, you know, aren't even aware of what we really want, because we're busy on what I call the telephone, or you know, we're
Call it that too.
you know, we're busy, you know, on apps. We're busy, you know, tending to other people. We really don't know what our yes and our no truly is.
Yeah.
You know. And when you learn that no is a complete sentence, when you take that step back and you establish those boundaries, you really begin to put your life in order.
And the peace that you get from it is amazing.
Listen.
This past couple of weeks, I was talking to one of my buddies, and just go.
Mm-hmm.
And for the last couple of months, I just been feeling so overwhelmed, like just overly extended, just adding more stuff to the table. I'm not thinking about nothing. I'm just, somebody has a need, I'm trying to meet their needs.
Absolutely.
And this and that. And I felt like I wasn't stable, not so much mentally, but I can feel my equilibrium off. I can feel that something was starting to take place in my body. And I was just like, okay, I got to take some days off.
Absolutely.
I took some
It's
days
important.
off, and I made doctor's appointments to, you know, make sure I was okay. And if I didn't, I can be right now laid up in the hospital bed.
Absolutely.
My iron level was extremely low. I was, you know, what is it called? Verilago or something? It's something where the room starts
vertigo.
Spinning. Vertigo. Every day, it was like the room was spinning. My levels was low. And I was just going, drinking another Mountain Dew to give me the strength to keep going. And people didn't care.
Right. They care
If
for
I
a
was
little
calling
while.
them, it was fine.
Right.
Nobody picked up the phone to say, hey, how you doing?
Right.
I haven't seen you.
That's right.
I haven't talked to you.
That's right.
You know, of course, you know, I'm still posting on Facebook, so people think you're okay. But I hadn't been out in the community. I haven't done, you know what I'm saying? Nobody picked up the phone to call.
Usually they don't.
Nobody knew what I was going through. People don't care.
I was just about to say, usually they don't really even care.
When they have no more use for you.
You're truncated. Yeah. So it becomes important for you to, again, to draw those boundaries for yourself. And boundaries allow you to see where you're going.
Yeah.
To safely see where you're going. Versus, you know, if you have so much on your plate, I got to do this, I got to go there, I got to go, you know, I got to take this person there, I got to do this, you know, you miss something key, whether it's your health or other elements of life. You miss something that is key. And in this instance, you know, we give out of ourselves so much. I call it a personal maintenance. I always take a personal maintenance day. You know, I do that for me.
Once a week, or how often do you do it?
Well, I used to do it once a week.
Okay.
You know, but now, you know, I'm working hard to stabilize my business.
Okay.
You know, I don't get to do that, but at least once a month, take a personal maintenance day. Go get a facial. Go get a massage. You know, or take yourself to breakfast. Take yourself to lunch or to the movies, or just lay in bed all day watching whatever you want to watch in your pajamas. Turn the phone off. I'm quick to turn my phone off.
I've never turned my phone off.
I will turn my phone off in a heartbeat. I'll put it on do not disturb. That's what voicemail is for. you
I've
know.
never turned my phone off, even when my children were young and they were growing up. When they became teenagers, a couple of my girlfriend and her husband
Mhm.
will always tell me, Carmen, turn your phone off and get you some rest.
You must.
And I would tell them, no, because the boys are out of the house. I don't, I want to make sure
So
that
you let the boys come through. You put them as your favorites. They're still able to come. All your favorite people are still able to come through.
to turn it off.
And you just put the rest on do not disturb. I do that nightly still. The only time
Wow.
I wasn't doing that is when my brother was really, really ill and I was taking care of him.
Mhm.
I wouldn't turn the phone because doctors might call or something like that. But once I began to establish my boundaries, I absolutely turn the phone off. I put it on do not disturb. It goes into do not disturb nightly at 9 p.m.
Wow.
And then my favorites are able to get through and
Okay.
reach me.
In case it's an emergency. Now, what I have been implementing for the last couple of weeks, now it may not be much to y'all, but it's a lot to me. Because I'm in a hustle and a bustle. I'm at work. Well, my prep period is first hour, but technically I'm at work 7:20 a.m.
Mhm.
and I get off work at 11 p.m. every night, Monday through Friday.
Wow.
So I'm working 2 full-time jobs.
That's a lot.
So when I get home for the last couple of weeks, I watch a Christmas movie before I fall asleep. Just so that it can transform my mind. I can kind of release the cares of the day.
Absolutely. Well, for me, I put on Neville Goddard. If you've heard Neville Goddard, you have to look him up.
Okay.
He's good meditation at night. Or I'm big into frequencies and things of that nature. So sometimes at night I'll turn on a frequency at night, like a sleep frequency, or just a
Now turn on rainwater. Is that the same thing?
Well, kind of similar.
Okay.
But frequencies are a lot bit different, but that's still a form of meditation, turning on like something calming. So yeah, I'll do that where our subconscious mind is still being fed while we're sleeping. Or I put on like a money frequency or something.
Okay.
Something.
Now my son does that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so and then in the morning time I get up, so between 8 and the time I leave the house, I'm really not trying to talk on the phone.
Now, what are we doing? What are you doing? I asked you what you have coming out. You said something about the book. Okay, what else do you have?
So I have a New Me November where I'm doing facials at Tina Jabez Aesthetics Lounge. Okay. Basic facials for the rest of November, 55.55. I'm an angel number girl. Okay. So 55.55 is the cost of a 1-hour facial session with me. Wow. Upcoming in February, again, I'll have a vehicle, by then, SUV. Let me be specific what I speak.
Yes, because you need to pack your stuff in there and be able to get to the home.
Yes, and I don't want just an SUV. I want a bigger one than I had, And so I want to be able to still do my birthday, ministry with the homeless.
No, we supposed to do something before that.
In
November.
Well, let's get it.
My mother's birthday is November the 26th.
Okay.
I didn't want to do anything big, but I did want to do something with feeding the homeless.
Okay.
So even if it's, you know what? Maybe we can do this. I didn't think about it until just now what you said. However age my mother was going to be, which I don't know because Miss O'Neill
Miss O'Neill
lied to about the age. That's what my daddy used to call her, O'Neill. Now, I just be like, that's your wife. Why you keep calling her by y'all last name?
That's country.
But the 26th is my mother's birthday, the day before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
And regardless if I have anybody or not, I'm going out to, feed the homeless on her birthday.
Okay, well, let's put together a menu. I'll do what I do. I get on the horn and, I talk. Sometimes people listen. My clients are
I just want to do spaghetti. I want to do chicken.
Minor. Okay.
And some bread.
Okay, that's something minor. We can make that happen.
Yeah, because I don't want people to get interrupted. I know. I get it, guys. I don't want people to get interrupted in their Thanksgiving.
Well, so I stopped giving people that option.
Okay.
So you have to stop giving people the option to say no.
Okay.
Okay. So again, we want the willing. You always want to take with you the willing because the willing is the winning team.
See,
and so you say what you want.
I want spaghetti, I want chicken, and I want some slices of bread.
and we want to, preferably, for me, I like to go out on the actual holidays,
Okay.
because no one's wrapping their arms around the community on the actual holidays. We're busy doing what we do with our families. And I say, well, you've been eating with the same people for about 50, 60 years.
Now I work every Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So I try to, I know for the last 3 years, I have partnered with Dice and his partner, Aaron.
Okay.
They feed not the homeless, Jesus. Y'all see where my heart is. They feed the seniors.
That's important.
So they have a couple of senior apartment buildings
Okay.
that they go and they have a spread.
On the actual holiday or
No,
the day before?
It's that Saturday before.
Okay.
And we feed the community in that apartment. I think now they have like 7 apartment buildings.
Okay.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, they just have added some additional.
Okay.
So we definitely need volunteers for all the locations. But we feed the seniors, and then people come and they sit and they talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
So we do that. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think I am supposed to do something on Thanksgiving with a couple of social worker friends in the district.
Okay. Because I'm closed on Thanksgiving.
Are you closed? Okay.
I'm closed. My business is closed on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I'll put my boots on and get out there.
So I know we're supposed to be feeding the vets.
Okay.
So I need to find out the actual date. But the actual date you need to know right now is November the 26th. I will make sure that I update the Detroit Table Talk page as well as my page for whatever we're doing on the actual holiday.
Okay.
Just a couple of hours. You guys can, you can go and stand out there at that parade to see the same floats every year. You can go feed the vets or the homeless. Okay.
Or the senior citizens. That community is always at a deficit, because they're on fixed incomes. I try to tend to them year round.
Yeah. I would say I'm starting something. I haven't put out all the flyers, but I'm starting something where we go and sit in a convalescent home.
Mm-hmm.
And just sit and have game night with the seniors.
That'd be awesome. They love that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They love hugs and
desserts,
they love fruit.
Desserts and conversation.
Yeah, they love fruit and conversation. And so, they appreciate seeing us.
Yeah.
They call us angels, and I call them angels, because there's an exchange that happens there. It's a blessing to be in their presence, as far as I'm concerned.
Do you remember? I don't know if you were here in Michigan, but Rico, I don't know if you remember, we used to have where the seniors would come into the schools and they would be grandparents.
Oh, no, that'd be great.
They would hire senior citizens to come in and act as grandparents.
Really?
And the climate of the school was such a better climate.
Wow.
Because kids had people in there they looked at as grandma.
That's beautiful.
And I think we probably need to think about implementing that one more time.
That'd be great.
But it's important for me. But it's also important that I say that if you have children, if you have grandchildren, introduce them to serving at a young age.
Absolutely important.
Introduce them to serving at a young age. Now our children are so selfish.
Absolutely.
It's all about them.
Absolutely.
And, when my children were like 4 and 5, they had to participate in feeding the homeless.
Absolutely.
And they learned very well. And they learn quick.
Well, I told you, my children grew up the same way. My children would even defer their Christmases to help children in need for Christmas. Like, Mom, you do for us year round. We don't need Christmas. We would celebrate Christmas in January. They would wait and we celebrate Christmas in January. And then we would take, whatever we were going to do for them, and we'd go and, adopt a family or adopt a few children and give. And so, it's very important to, not just teach them, how to tend to each other, tend to the community. And I need to say this before I forget to say this. Our community is the only community that does not tend to each other.
Yes.
It's important. And I've been saying this for a long time now. We are the only community that don't tend to each other. As you see the trajectory of the government right now, others get what they need. And all the others get what they need. Our community, we're at the back burner in every perspective of being at the back burner. And so now, you know, like when I was coming up in the 70s, you know, I come up in a small town. And so, you know, it was nothing for us to be eating at the neighbor's house without them talking about us, you know, or them being at our house, or, you know, doing a community event, and you knew that you could just walk up to and you know, get a plate without being ostracized for doing so. And so, you know, we're going back to that time where it's needed for our communities to be more cohesive.
We have to,
you know, and you know, there's nothing wrong with making some sandwiches and giving them away. You can tell when there's a deficit in someone's life. Like when I lived in Grosse Pointe, there were some neighbors above me. They were Caucasians, and it was more.
They were who?
Caucasians.
Okay. I don't know what that means.
They're from the Caucasus Mountain.
Oh.
They're from the Caucasus Mountain.
Okay.
They're Caucasians.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was sitting here and I was listening. I was saying, wait, what? I was on the lane reaction. Okay.
Yeah, it's from the Caucasus Mountain. But yeah, and so you don't get me in trouble. You don't get me in trouble on here.
I'm sorry.
But you know, the mother and the father, they didn't work all day long. The kids went to school. They were very talented kids too. They all played instruments, and I would listen. You know, I'd be downstairs listening, play the piano, and you know, blow their horns and stuff. And the parents were terrible. I'm so glad I'm releasing this. The parents were terrible parents, and you know, they would make the kids work. You know, and you could see by looking that, you know, there was some things missing there. And so every morning I used to take a basket with like granola bars and Nutri-Grain bars and all kinds of stuff that I knew kids liked. And I put it on the steps for when they were going to school, you know, they could grab, you know, and then, you know, I put pizzas out there, you know, in the evening time for them to grab them, you know, and just, you know, it costs a little bit to be kind. You know, sometimes they say, you know, it costs nothing to be kind, but sometimes it costs a little bit to be kind. And you know, the songwriter said, love's in need of love today. And that was so many years ago. I'm 52, and I'm telling you that love is still in need of love today. You know,
God will use the smallest things to confound the wise. You know, and I thought about it. I don't know why in this season I feel like the phrase or the word that God has given me is something that we used to say back in the old days. You know, New Jack City. When God showed it to me, he showed me New Jack City when they were at the table. And although, you know, say, God, why wouldn't he use that, you know, New Jack City? No, but he said something. Am I my brother's keeper? And we have to get back to really believing that we are our brother's keeper.
Absolutely.
You know, when you hurt, I hurt.
Absolutely.
You know, because it affects our community.
Absolutely. But people don't see that, you know, people are quick to be like, oh, well, that's a you problem, not a me problem. And I think that's where I get in trouble, you know, with myself is, you know, I can't walk by. I don't have to know you to love you.
Yep.
You know, I don't have to know you to make sure to ask you, hey, are you okay? You know, hey, can I pray for you? You know, and even if the answer is no, I'm going to still say, hey, I'm praying for you. You know, whatever it is you're needing God to do for you, I just want to touch and agree, and it's done, because that's what the word says anyway. It says we're supposed to touch and agree. And so whatever it is that you believe in God to do for you, I'm just going to just touch and agree that God sees, you know, your deficit.
Now, I don't be touching and agreeing with everybody. People get mad at me. I don't touch and agree with everybody. Because if your desires is not the desires that God has for you, don't be calling me asking me, can you touch and agree with me? I'll be like, what am I touching and agreeing about?
Well, that's fair to ask. You know, it's always fair to ask, you know, what you're touching and agreeing on. And I'll give you this story, for instance. You know, I had a cousin, and she's one of my favorite cousins, and she passed on maybe about 4 years ago. And you know, they called me on the phone the morning of her transition, and or maybe the day before. And they said, cuz she talking right now, she wants you to sing. And then the sister said, I want you to pray. And I said, well, okay, pray on the phone. And then when I went to pray, like nothing came out. It was the first time that I ever went to pray and nothing came out. And I was like, well, that's strange, And so I went ahead. I said, well, let me go ahead and sing this little song, So I sung my song, and I was led to say to her, hey, listen. I said, whatever it is you're believing God to do for you, I said, I just want to touch and agree that it's done. Mm-hmm. That night she passed. Mm. Okay. And so, and what I learned from that instance was this, sometimes, when people ask you to pray, yeah. You're praying from your eyesight, yes. your spiritual yes. sight and perspective. Yes. You're not praying from their spiritual mm-hmm. sight and perspective. And so, when you allow that to be, I just want to agree with you, whatever it is that you're believing, mm-hmm. it is so. Mm-hmm. Rather it's, God don't let me stomp my pinky toe. Mm-hmm. Whatever it is, yeah. I'm just touching and agreeing. Mm-hmm. Now, in regards to people touching and agreeing with me or praying for me, I don't want you to pray for me. I want you to pray with me. Yeah. Because if you're praying with me, then I know that we're touching and agreeing.
This is too good. We have to bring Miss Tina Jabez back because we got a lot to talk about.
Yes, indeed.
But listen, as we wrap up, what message or words of encouragement would you like to share with the listeners?
Oh, wow. Never, ever stop believing in yourself. Rather it's a dream that's been on hold for 20, 30 years. Never, ever stop believing in you. Put God first and always be kind to people because you never know what they're going through. And just trust God for whatever your next step is and never, ever, ever be afraid to jump.
Thank you so much.
You're so
Ms.
very
Tina,
welcome.
For sharing your story and inspiring not just me, because I'm sitting here and I'm inspired, but hopefully the listeners that was on today, thank you so much for inspiring them. Remember, you too can make a difference Absolutely. In this community. You too can step in and change the trajectory of somebody's life. Absolutely. It doesn't even have to be a lot.
That's right.
Just do what God has called you to do. And I promise you, it will change a person's heart. It would change the way they see life. It would change the way they even see their circumstance and
Absolutely.
situation.
And your circumstance is only a circle you're standing in at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Listen, continue to stay connected to Detroit Table Talk. We're going to have other individuals that come up with inspiring stories to sit with us. Y'all don't see the table today, but to sit with us at a table. Who knows? We may not even have the table no more. We just may have. It's a table here. So if you're looking for the table, here it is right here. Don't forget, get my book. The first book I wrote, Covenant Relationships, Understanding What God Desires for Us. It's not here, but life happens. How God sustained me through some of the trauma.
That's a word right there.
Yeah. Through some of the things that I went through, God sustained me. In my book, I wrote on autism. Let's be friends, because we have to teach young people at an early age, first and secondary education, how to treat children that are different than them.
Right, tolerance.
And don't forget, I have a new men's and women's cologne and perfume line that's out. The young ladies, Bella, and the young men's Nice.
Bella.
Please help us. I collect. Just going back into the community. You already
Absolutely.
know. So can you just say a quick 1-minute prayer? Because we got to get out of here. We got Spectrum Talk coming up next. You want to stay tuned for that as well. You want to go to, is it Spectrum Talk, their page? Dr. Vatanji Kendricks Bailey page, and you will be able to connect with that. And then after that, we have What Up Doe podcast. Listen, you got back-to-back, podcasts that bring you information about the community. If you want to stay connected to what's going on, you can tune into either one of those podcasts. You would definitely be connected. You want to say a 1-minute prayer?
1 minute prayer. Whoo. Father God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this covenant relationship that you have birthed here. Father God, we ask that you will bless that this relationship grows and grows and grows. And Father God, we ask that you will meet the needs of the people in this time of deficit that's happening all over the world, Father God. I ask
Yes.
that you will meet the needs of the people, and especially our community, God. I ask that you will just continue to cover, Father God, keep our kids. Our kids are going through a tremendous changeover, God. Keep the children, Father God, and I ask that you will just bless and meet the needs of Miss Carmen Evans, Mr. Dice Clark, everybody that is touching the community in such a phenomenal way. God, meet the needs of the people in the mighty
And
name
my
of Jesus.
engineer, Rico.
And don't forget Rico, the engineer. And we just thank you for your manifold blessings. And we thank you for what you've done. We thank you for what we've gone through that have made us greater and better and bigger people. And Father God, we ask that these stories that people sit in these chairs and tell, God, absolutely make a difference in the lives of the listener. And God, we ask that you'll just do it now in the mighty. We know that you're going to do it now in the mighty name of Jesus. We pray and we say thank you, Lord, and amen.
Until next time. Love you.